Are you bold enough to say that you are the most handsome Super Bowl winner from North Pole, Alaska?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's easy.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Neat Conversations, where you get to see some of your favorite all-time Broncos enjoy a flight of whiskeys while talking about the good old days. Neat Conversations is sponsored by Horseshoe Spirits, the nation's first collegiate athletic spirits line. In addition to the collective's bourbon, Horseshoe Spirits also produces gin, rum, and vodka, with proceeds from sales going to the Horseshoe Collective in support of Boise State student athletes' NIL efforts, in partnership with local community organizations. On today's episode, the pride of North Pole High School, a Super Bowl winner, a business owner, restaurateur, and Bronco legend, Daryn Colledge.
All right, so DC, we got you here. We got three fantastic bourbons for you. We're going to go left to right. First one is the Horseshoe Collective.
My left to right or
correct,
my work?
Correct,
okay.
correct. Everyone's left to right.
Everyone's left to
What
right.
you see in front of you. But before we get into it, I want a true, unaltered answer here.
Okay.
Are you bold enough to say that you are the most handsome Super Bowl winner from North Pole, Alaska?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's easy. Only Super Bowl winner, I think, for North Pole right now. But we do have two Super Bowl winners from Alaska that I can name right off the top of my head, and that's me and Mark Schlereth, and I'm definitely better looking than Mark.
He's a vandal, too.
I know, exactly.
Yeah, you don't want that.
But oddly enough, we both end up in Idaho schools. So I think that there's a path there for most Alaskan kids to get into Idaho, eventually win a championship.
Cheers to that.
Yeah,
we'll start
absolutely.
off with the Horseshoe Collective Bourbon. So this is super exciting. Obviously, this is why we're here, is the Horseshoe Spirits collection.
Yeah.
Not only have the bourbon, they got rum, gin, vodka. I'm always partial to bourbon. You drink a lot of bourbon as part of your job and allocating for your restaurants. So thoughts on this bourbon that's new to the market as of a week ago?
You know what? This is only the second time I've gotten to try it, which I'm super excited about because I only got a quick sip on it. Unbeknownst to, I don't even know if anybody knows, but like when it was kind of getting built up, we kind of brought it to a lot of our staff and our management and our bartenders to say, hey, here's what we're trying, here's what the collective wants to do, and we were happy to put time and effort in to try to help because whatever we can for Boise State. The thing that came out of all of that was we were super impressed with all four that they were doing, and one of my director of operations, which is Chris Mitchell, huge bourbon guy, was extremely excited for what we were doing, what you guys were doing with the bourbon. It's at a great price point, way better than we thought it would be. A bunch of those things, because when you get some of this labeled tag stuff, especially when it comes out of private, small batch stuff, you don't always get something great. And I think they've got a winner here, and we're looking forward to it. We're going to carry them both in the James, or we'll carry all four in the James, but we'll carry to both restaurants, James and Corso, and we'll be excited to hopefully support the program this year through it. So if you need something made on one of our menus, we'll make sure you call it out and say, hey, I want some of that collective.
Love it. So you got the hat. We'll talk the restaurants soon enough, but I want to go back further than that. You are from Santa's hometown. So tell me about the best and worst part of being from North Pole, Alaska.
Oh man, the best and worst part about being from North Pole, Alaska. The best part of being from North Pole is if you still got your driver's license, you can usually win a free drink in most any restaurant. You go in any bar and you bet somebody you got from North Pole, you can usually get yourself a free drink. Gotta love Christmas up there, the candy cane light poles. It's still a place that you can mail letters and they'll mail them back from Santa for your kids. So the town gets behind it. A lot of local businesses help to write the letters. It's a lot of foot traffic. Santa can't do it all himself. So it becomes really a community effort to kind of support that. And it's a great community. It's a blue collar community. It's a much smaller version of Boise. So it was easy to make that transition here. The worst part of living in Alaska and living in North Pole specifically, I would probably guess 60 below in the winter and the all dark. The sun and dark never bothered me when I lived there. I grew up in it. I was totally used to it. Can't lie, the first time I came back from college, I was blown away by it and totally messed up. My body had readapted to what a normal, circadian rhythm was going to be and sleep. And I came back and I was like, you got to tinfoil the windows, so we need some blackout curtains. I'm absolutely losing it. But 60 below, that's probably what crushes. Now, if the whole global warming thing's really trending, North Pole's looking like it might be real nice here in 15, 20 years. So.
Anyone that's met you, talked to you, knows that much like the Dos Equis spokesperson, you're one of the most interesting men in the world. And you take a look at your resume, you've got professional football player, National Guard, restaurateur, winemaker, and support staff in college athletics. So of all those, what has been the most challenging career?
Restaurants has been the most challenging career of my life. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. It's emotionally, physically, mentally, financially challenging. I think it's, every one of those jobs that you mentioned before, I was always the guy who just had to do his job and rely on him to do his job. And I always knew I could execute my job because I always had a belief in myself and that I would outwork the people around me and I would become proficient at what I did and then I would excel at that thing. This is the first time in my life I have built something up and given it to somebody else and said, execute. I can't do every single job. If I thought I could do every job in my restaurant, I think I could be a success, but that's not realistic. You have to trust other people and build a culture in those restaurants to have them want to be there and have it be great. When we opened Corso the first day, I sat down with my staff and told them the opening night, I said, I've built you a house, so you have to make it a home. You have to make it a place people want to be and that you want to be and create that. We will do everything we can to adjust that and protect them and support them as a staff and as leadership in that company. But in all reality, it's one of those like, you've got to run. You've got to start flying and do this on your own. And that has been extremely hard. The margins are extremely small. The staff is quick to turn over and you're dealing with regular people out there. And you're trying to build something and you say, hey, here's an idea. I hope you like my idea. And then the public says, go, I don't like your idea. And then you try to change from there. And if you have an ego in this business, it gets checked real quick.
Well, tell me about those two restaurants. I've been, love them, but for anyone that hasn't been, what are the two restaurants you're referring to? And then on top of that, if you can only order one dish at both the James and Corso, what dishes are they?
The James, we're right across the street from campus. A lot of people use us for pregame, use us during lunch for the week. We're on the second floor right there where the old Cobbies used to be for anybody that's been around long enough for that. Next to Suds and End Zone. We're an upscale, pub really. We do new American style food. We do sandwiches, pizzas, burgers. It's simple. It's just good quality food and amazing cocktails. We've got a great cocktail program, the James, which is our most famous cocktail there, which is a bourbon-based old fashioned, is excellent. So if I'm coming in and I want one thing from the James, sadly, I eat carnivore, so I have the same thing all the time. So if I'm not having booze, which I do most of the time I'm there, but if I have booze, I actually get 4 burger patties and 4 pieces of cheese and 2 eggs on the side. But if I'm on a cheat day, God, I love our pizzas. I think they're amazing. And the chicken sandwich is excellent. And we're getting ready to launch. We teamed up with Ashton Genty last year and did the Genty, which was a huge hit. This year we're getting ready to announce, so it'll be announced on here officially, that we've made a Cage Casey sandwich. We've teamed up with Cage. He wants to feed the offensive line this year. So we're going to have a little running Ashton versus Cage event to see which sandwich turns out on top.
Well, tell us about the Cage. What is the Cage sandwich?
The Cage Casey is a terrible sandwich to explain because it doesn't sound right, and I really can't explain it. It's just amazing, but it's actually a ham-based sandwich, but it's like ramen. It's got ramen sauce on it. It's got egg on it. It's got ham and cheese on it. It's simply amazing. And every time I try to explain it to people, I realize I can't do it. Now, if my chef sits down with you, she can nail it. She's like, here's how it is and here's what you got to say. I'm a former offensive lineman. I can't build up that lingo yet. But I'm going to tell you, it's ham, it's egg, it's ramen sauce, and it's on bread. It's amazing.
I got to try it. I don't understand it. You're right. It's
exactly.
very confusing.
It's very
but
confusing.
It's intriguing, so I'm into it.
Well, when Ashton came out, it was like pepper dews and onions and like sriracha sauce. And we first put his out, everybody was like kind of like whatever. And now it's one of the most popular sandwiches.
That's fantastic. And then Corso. What's the meal to order at Corso?
Corso's an Italian steakhouse. So for everybody that doesn't go to it, it's something I kind of fell in love with in the Midwest. They're big in Chicago and they're big in Milwaukee and stuff like that. It's really Americanized Italian food and steak, which is as a former offensive lineman is my favorite thing. So for me, there again, I'm a carnivore, so it's always going to be something like the ribeye. But if I'm cheating, I love our lasagna, and we're doing a sea bass right now that I'm struggling to not eat it every time I go in. So I try to spread it out. Like it's one of those things as the restaurant owner, I try to go in and sample something different every time and keep the rotation, make sure that we're keeping food quality up. But I even get stuck in routines of, God, man, that's my favorite. And I just drink that and I just eat that. So it's a struggle, really. Well, it's hurting the waistline. I'm telling you that much.
That's another benefit and negative of being a restaurant owner is you
Yes.
always have great food at your disposal, which is dangerous. Also dangerous, great whiskey at your disposal. Yes. We got Eagle Rare coming up, so we'll move on to our number 2 whiskey of the night. Eagle Rare, well known by any whiskey aficionado. This is fascinating to me because when I started drinking bourbon, you could readily find this at any state liquor store for all of $40. Now it's an allocated option, $80+, huge on the secondary market. The taste is still great, but the availability is hardly there. So, Eagle Rare, cheers.
Do I just spit it out like
like
we're doing hot ones? It's like, oh God, like.
We won't give you anything like that. We won't do anything that'll bring you that much heartburn immediately. But tell me about it. You're getting into bourbon. I know it's not always your first beverage
No, it's not.
choice,
It's actually, as fall rolls in, my drinks are very cyclical, right? I follow the restaurant. I follow what we're trying and new. So half the stuff I'm drinking, we don't even have it on the menu yet. It's like one of my bartenders is like, hey, I've just created this thing. And sometimes it's amazing. Sometimes it's an atrocity. So it's like one of those things where it's like, all right, I just kind of mix, and then it's a wine tasting, it's a beer tasting, it's whoever vendor happens to be in there. So my time when I really start to drink whiskey is really into the fall and winter. I'm gonna give me a cigar guy, drink it neat. Most of the time I'm having bourbon in the restaurants. It's in a mixed drink situation. It's not in a neat format. So I'm drinking, whatever somebody happens to be using for their well at that time, or we're using, which at the James is high quality whiskey, but it's not always the top shelf stuff. So the chance to get to drink neat is always great. And you get into something like this, which is extremely smooth. It's a great flavor profile, has a great finish to it, doesn't kill you right off the back, but still obviously has the alcohol punch and the proof that in it that just makes it just a solid whiskey. And you see why it's become an allocation. Sadly, as a restaurant, I'm part of that same allocation. I can't get my hands on it either. I'm part of the lottery system. I'm the one who's trying to pull it and put it on the shelves for my own customers. So. And it seems like some of the other restaurants are getting better draws than me. So I got to start talking to the people doing these lotteries because it's starting to feel feeling like some people are winning more than other people.
So now that I got a drink and a half of whiskey in you, we're going to go to maybe a not so great memory. As a Boise State football player during the peak of success for the Broncos, you didn't experience many losses.
No.
But one stands out, a historic game on the blue, not a regular season game. Tell me about maybe one of the weirdest games in Boise State history in the Humanitarian Bowl.
Yeah, lost to Boston College. Super weird. Oddly, it was my 53rd start of my career. I was finishing up. It was my senior year. And I only remember all this because a reporter brought this up to me the day before. She was interviewing us for the game, and I was a senior, and I was a captain, the whole 9 yards. And I was coming up, and in that class, we actually didn't have a whole lot of seniors. So it was one of those things where I was in front of the camera a lot. Speaking to the seniors, and she was interviewing, she said, hey, if you win this game, you actually tie for the winningest record in college football history by a player. And you'll be one of only, 2 offensive linemen and a couple of them were other positions. It didn't really matter. She had this weird stat for me, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then, and also in all that time, I had never lost on the blue. And statistically, I've still never lost a home game on the blue because oddly enough, we were the away team at that game. But yeah, I had a chance to play Matthias Kiwanuka, who I knew was going to be a top draft pick. I knew I was getting ready for the draft. I knew it was going to be kind of my last challenge. Ended up playing with multiple guys from that team, that Boston College team I ended up playing with in the league. And a few of them still try to rub it in on social media once a year. But yeah, so, the kind of game that I didn't expect to lose, thought we had them where we exactly wanted them. And then to have them win like that, it still hurts. And it still hurts to know that I've lost one game on the blue. But I'd also like to tell the fans, I've never lost a home game on the blue. I like to live in those places of the super gray area. But yeah, that one still hurts. But I was excited because at that time I'd set the record for most consecutive starts by any player in Boise State history. I thought that record would last for a long, long time. It didn't. Kellen Moore came in. Little did I know a legend was following me right in behind me and would break it in his 4 years right after me. Now, again, they allowed him to play more games. They didn't allow me to play that many games. And now these COVID kids, I think they're playing 70. They're playing like 70 games in their career. So
you just got to stop the record prior to COVID.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not the same game.
Yeah, it's like when steroid ball came out, right? It's like you just put asterisks on all these guys. They're the Barry Bonds. They're the Barry Bonds of college football.
To be clear, we're not saying that the COVID guys were on steroids.
No,
that's not
saying that at all. I don't know if drug testing was suspended at that time. We weren't allowed to be within 5 feet of each other. This is all speculation. We weren't there. I wasn't there. I'm just telling you what I think may have happened. I don't know.
So you go from Boise State, go from blue collar Alaska, blue collar Boise State, get drafted by the blue collar Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
A lot of winning programs along the way. What was that transition like from college in Boise to professional football in Green Bay?
It was an amazing experience and also the worst experience of my life, right? I left college football, which I think college football's changed. I don't think there's any way to say college football hasn't changed, but the college football I left was a team-oriented program based on, a bunch of guys sticking around to a place and winning championships and working towards a common goal. I went into a place in Green Bay that was very much that blue-collar community that had that same thing. You hear about all the razz and all the stuff that happens to rookies when they go in the NFL. Green Bay wasn't that way. They were very professional. The guy sat me down and said, hey, we need to win championships. That's what we're built here to do. That's what we want to do. That's what's expected. There's nothing to be that crap. Here's your one rookie hazing thing. You're going to pay for one dinner, but everybody pays for a dinner throughout the year. Yours is just going to be the big one, but it's still not going to be like it was those kind of things. Like, you're not getting taped to a goalpost, none of that stuff. Like, just go out and win. We expect you to play and win. And I loved it. I went from being a big fish in arguably a small pond and one of the better players to leave out of the program and one of the better players in my conference that year and one of the better players drafted that year to becoming just another guy in the league and frankly getting benched after my very first preseason game. I fell down 50 times on the first 30 plays. I don't even know how that was physically possible, but I did it. I wanted to go out and do everything that I said I would do at Boise State. I wanted to go out and I didn't want to embarrass the state of Alaska. I didn't want to embarrass my family and I didn't want to embarrass my team. And I went out in that first game and tried to do that same thing at 100 miles an hour and did all those things in a row. And I fell back on a bunch of stuff I learned from Boise State. And I was able to take a lot of those lessons and a lot of things I learned as a young man here that turned me into the man I would be as a professional player and found a way to fight back and overcome a lot of that and get my starting spot back by week 1. And then again, set a record there and never missed another game while I was in my 5 seasons there. So it was one of those things where I just tried to continue doing what Boise State had taught me. And I think Boise State really obviously set that standard for me. And I think it made my transition a lot easier. I also think it was a lot easier going to a program like Green Bay and not ending up in a place like Miami, Phoenix, one of these big cities, Chicago, where a kid from North Pole or from Boise would have probably gotten a little lost in those cities and may have gotten himself in a lot more trouble than he was in Green Bay, Wisconsin, or De Pere, Schwabenon, one of those things. We only got 2 bars and 3 restaurants. It's it's a little more mild.
You mentioned the Boise State program that you played for. Very blue collar, very chip on the shoulder. Yeah. Since then, historic success. You were a part of that historic success. The funding has come. Facilities are better. Uniforms are better. Gear's better. Yeah. You got social media presence. You got NIL money. And it's not to say that takes away entirely from the blue collar mindset, but how has the blue collar Boise State that you played in changed to what the blue collar Boise State program is today? What are those major differences and what ones are you maybe a little bit salty about?
Well, I think the easy one right off the top of that is always the money, right? We lived in a world where we lived with 6 guys and we lived off top ramen and chicken and rice, and your parents supplemented your money and you weren't allowed to go out and earn more than a couple $100, or you had to report to the NCAA what you were doing. So half the guys were working at local restaurants and bars trying to get paid under the table just so they can make rent, right? You're cheating the rules to make money to pay rent and to keep, nobody's handing you a car. Nobody's handing you, the $100,000 they were handing supposedly Reggie Bush at SC. Nobody was getting that kind of stuff. You were literally working jobs for hopefully cash so you could live with 5 dudes instead of 6. And that stuff was hard. I remember, I'm getting ready for somebody to take this lawsuit up because I think Jackson and I need to have a talk. I never was really ever bothered by the NIL stuff. I was always one of those guys that firmly believe I was getting an education and an opportunity for free, theoretically, and that my gift back to the university was win, success, support that program, and turn over your jersey, even though my mom's probably the only one who bought one. But I remember walking over to Jackson's one day and seeing my bobblehead when the first bobbleheads came out. And I was like sitting there and I walked in, I was just stunned. And the dude at the counter all of a sudden recognized me. He's like, "Oh, hey man, that's your bobblehead." And I was trying to figure it out what it was. It was like you bought a Slurpee and you got a bobblehead for like $5 or whatever the deal was. And I was sitting there and I was like, that's not my jersey without my name on it. That's my picture. That's my statistics. That's where I came from, my name and my actual photo. And I was like, how am I not getting a buck? Like literally, I'm buying the soda I can barely afford to go. I'm going to walk down to Albertsons. I'm going to buy the last turkey leg that's about to go on clearance at 9 p.m. because it's $6 cheaper than it is if I buy it at a regular hour, and I'm going to hover around it. Like that's the stuff I was dealing with. And you had a lot of guys at the time that played like that felt like that. You know, you look at a Corey Hall out of, you know, a place like Glen Ferry, you look at the dudes we had there that weren't getting offers to their programs, that just wanted to go out and prove it and wanted to punish people for not giving them an opportunity. And I think we still live in that world somewhat with Boise State, because we are still dealing with less. We're still dealing with a little bit of that, hey, you're a great program. You're successful, but you're successful at what you do in the place that you do it. Like, that's great. You're doing a great job over there. And we respect that and we see that, but we don't really see you. So I think those guys are still dealing with that. A lot of those guys can carry that burden on their shoulder. But I think a lot of the transfer portal stuff and is starting to change some of that. The innate guys that are going to be here for 5 years that are going to build this program up to be it. I think from the outside looking in, we're losing some of that. I still believe that this program, there's 75% of those guys will never get an NIL dollar beyond some minimum stuff. They're going to be the guys that are still the foundation of this program for the years to come. And I hope that those guys know that and those guys see that and they realize what part of the community they are. The flashes and pans are going to go. The superstars are going to come and go. They're going to transfer and they're going to move around. But you've got a core group of guys that have a chance to be the core group of guys in the foundation of these programs for years. And those will be the guys that stay here, raise families here, start businesses here, and grow in this community. And I hope the people outside this community, the fans, can look at those guys and say, hey man, I see those 75% of those guys that are all going to be doing something for this program, and not always recognize these dudes that are going to come and go. That's the game today, but that's just my feeling on it.
You look at that 75%, and oftentimes that's going to be offensive linemen, some of the most unheralded players on the roster.
Yep.
So I'll give you the floor. O-linemen don't get much credit. They get a lot of blame when things don't go well. Very little credit when things do go well.
Yeah.
Why should the average fan embrace and appreciate the offensive line more?
Oh man, for one, we're the best looking by far. Usually the most talented, usually the funniest, all the reasons. Offensive line is a rare position, right? I came here as a defensive line. I only played offensive line in high school because I went to a school of like 3 kids and you had to play both positions. I also punted. And it's one of those things where you just did everything you did because you're from a small town. And I planned on coming here to be a D lineman. I wanted to be this guy. I wanted to be an athlete. That was where all my accolades were. And they made me an offensive lineman. I wasn't one of those guys who was just like, can't wait to be it, saw that as my career, wanted to be that. I tell everybody that it was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life because it created the relationships and the families with the people that are the most important in my life. The great thing about being an offensive lineman is it is probably the one position on the field, every single play you rely on every single person around you to do their job at an excellent level. There is no Hall of Fame offensive lineman. There's Hall of Fame offensive lines and the one guy who happened to be the best one on it. You will never be a Hall of Fame offensive lineman if the 4 guys around you are terrible. If the 4 guys around you can't support you, if you're not supporting everybody on every single play, if you're not doing what the man next to you expects you to do or react the way the man expects you to do it, you have no success. And you will be above the fold on the front page of the newspaper every single day. If you guys do your job every single day and you do it absolutely right and you complete it 99% of the time, you have a chance for the guys that you supported to be above the front fold of the paper every single day, right? You got the running backs and the quarterbacks and the wide receivers. They're going to be the guys above the fold. If you don't do your job, it's you. If you do your job, it's them. And I think it takes a special guy to do that. And I think it takes a special attitude to do that. And it's one that has to be humbled into you. It's one that you have to be one of those guys that doesn't expect the limelight. You also have to be, especially in this day and age with football, you have to be an enforcer with mittens on. You have to find ways to set a tempo and set a standard and protect the men around you. But it's not like it even was when I played it, when you could pull off a little bit of the shiesty and a little bit of the extra and you could push and shove. Like, they're protecting guys more and more, which is great, which is awesome. But it's changed a little bit about our job and the mentality of our position. But offensive linemen, true offensive linemen, good offensive linemen are the most unselfish people on the field. They're the ones that they want to be ran over for that extra 2 yards. Run up my back, get that extra yard. Like, that's why I'm pushing. So I think it's a special position that doesn't allow a lot of go look at me or come see me. It's just one of those things where you just get to do your job every day and disappear. And for me, I love that role. Like, I don't mind talking. I don't mind being the center of attention for some things. But my accolades, my career, one of those things were one of the things that I just love to just quietly be a quiet professional about it and just do my job as best I can. Kind of just have the coach go, all right, Daryn's good. Like, move on to the next guy. Like, that's how I want to be. I never want to be above the fold. It's a terrible place to be. I've been there. a terrible place to be.
All right, we'll move on to our third of the flight. Old Forester 1924, 10-year-old bourbon. Very, very good stuff. I know you're cleansing your palate.
This may be actually, out of all three, the one I know the least about, that I've least sampled.
And the reason we chose this one for you is because one of your go-tos is the Old Forester 100, which you can find everywhere.
Yep.
This one you cannot. It's an allocated bourbon.
Yep.
From Joe Nickel's personal collection, so you know it's good. So
Only the best.
To Joe Nickel.
To Joe Nickel. I think he's been refilling it. He's been refilling it with water. This is for the guests.
Do you need to take that home to be sure?
I think I'm going to take this one home. I'm going to make sure this is legit.
So Daryn, I do have to ask.
It's downright delicious.
It is wonderful. They're all
excellent.
They're all phenomenal.
Yeah, there's no. You're just versions of good,
different
and gooder.
Types of good.
Yeah, gooder.
Yes.
We're just getting to gooder at this point.
People can see you got the tattoos. You're a fairly tall guy.
Well,
fairly strong guy with that carnivore diet, eating 15 burger patties and eggs a day. One of the things we asked was regrets you had during college. And you mentioned something that I can't quite put the visual together. You and roller skates.
Rollerblades.
Very big
Rollerblades.
difference. Okay, tell me about these rollerblades and why you got rid of them. Who knew you were such a rollerblade aficionado? Did you watch Brink?
You let people get into your head. You let other people make judgments about you, and that's something you learn as when you grow up and you become a man. Like, you stop caring what other people think. You just let the people close to you that matter actually make the decisions for you. And I told you, like, when you live with 6 dudes, you're broke. So you're like, I remember when I moved into a house, I used to live off Lincoln and Beacon, which like was an ex-Lady of the Night's house. Like, it was like been notoriously busted numerous times. Lived there with 6 dudes, like, but lived in that house because the drive to work, football, and the campus was so much shorter that I didn't have to pay for gas all the time. So I rode rollerblades like on campus all the time, on and off, on and off, on and off. And most of the people that are going to watch this won't remember this name, but some will. Like, I had a coach named Romeo Banison, and former Cleveland Brown, like, just one of the scariest human beings you've ever met in your entire life. And one of the key figures in my life that I remember that told me I was never going to make it to the NFL, not because he said it, but I looked at him, I said, that is not a person I ever want to be involved with. And this dude's left the league. Like, what do the dudes that are actually still in it look like? And he actually caught me on campus once on my rollerblades in between classes, because I don't know if they still make sure you're in class. I don't know if anybody even cares anymore since they're paying these kids. But we used to like get checked to make sure we showed up for class. And he caught me in between classes on my rollerblades. And I remember him looking at me and he's like, College, what the hell are you doing? And I was like, Manson, I love them. For one, I get around campus super fast. I got to get to practice. I got to get to lifts. Jeff Pittman's down there screaming at me and make sure I'm on time. But plus they keep me in shape, right? Like, I can ride around, like I can get to home, my legs looking great, like I'm a strong kid, blah, blah, blah. And he was laughing at me, right? He was making fun of me. 2 weeks later, I'm out on a Sunday swimming in the river right off campus, back before they built all the stuff, right? I walk right off the grass, I'm swimming in the river, and who passes me in like all spandex? 290 pounds of Romeo on rollerblades. This man rode for like the next 6 months, lost like 30 pounds, like was in the best shape of his life. Like, he was down on like the green belt, like left and right, like riding on rollerblades. Everybody's making fun of him. He was just out there killing it. Had the Oakleys on, like the spandex on, just cutting it up on the rollerblades. And I was like, I started a trend. But most of the guys on the team made fun of me, so I eventually ditched them. Once you're a captain, you can't be on rollerblades anymore. It's just, it was like an unspoken rule, but they spoke it loudly.
You're retired from playing.
Yes.
You no longer have to play cool.
No.
You've got the funds to buy a pair of rollerblades. Do you have a pair of rollerblades? Are we going to see you on the Greenbelt?
No, you're not. Because the problem is, for one, I live like all the way in practically Horseshoe Bend for most people. So there's nowhere to ride rollerblades out there. But 2, I have to commute like into town every single day. I got no time. Like, I'm running business. I got a daughter in volleyball. I got another daughter in like golf and archery. I got a wife. I've got like all these things now. Like, my responsibilities in life have gotten too big for me to have rollerblades anymore. And it might be one of the saddest things in my life. I have no rollerblade time anymore.
I feel like this is just your trauma coming through, and you're making up excuses for why you don't have rollerblades. We could solve this tomorrow. You can park at the park. You can rollerblade over to the restaurants. There's
You know
so
what? The
many ways to
restaurants
get
are only
around
like
this.
a half mile away from each other. I could be
It'd
commuting back and forth.
Irresponsible to drive back and forth between those two. You just
Exactly.
need to have your restaurant blades ready to go at all
I feel like
times.
this is a solid chapter 6 to the book, Why I Gave Up the Blades. Whenever somebody decides to write my book for me, because I've got nothing to actually say that's going to be book worthy. But if somebody decides to write my memoirs, I think chapter 6 is going to be Why I Gave Up the Blades. And then by chapter 12, we get back to why they came back.
On a serious note, if someone were to write your book,
Uh-huh.
one of those chapters would be called Trust. I know that's something you value. That's been a big part of every career you've ever had. So what does trust mean to you, and what is the most effective way to gain trust?
Oh man, that's broad, because that's a hard one to explain. I think that's like asking people what leadership, right, is. It's the most known thing in the world, and the most ununderstood enigma that exists, right? Trust is one of those things that you feel, you see, you know, but you can't really always describe. You know, when you're an offensive lineman, you live in this world where you have to trust the people around you, right? When I got a scholarship, I had to trust the people that I came down here. When I flew in a helicopter, I had to trust my crew to do their job because I'm in the back, and they plant the helicopter. I got real problems. I trust the people that run my restaurants. I've been fortunate in my life to be surrounded by amazing leaders and amazing partners and amazing teammates. I've also been fortunate in my life to be surrounded by terrible ones of all of those. And I think that that's a great thing in life, because you get to see both sides, right? You get to see the other side of the rainbow doesn't always have gold in it, right? The other side of the rainbow could be that somebody you think that you can believe in that's going to do the right thing by you probably doesn't do the right thing by you. But when you find those people that are those people in your life, those people that you can really put your trust, your faith, your understanding, that you can hand something to, they're the most important things in the world. And I think you need to lean into those as much as you possibly can, whether it be family, friends, business associates, whatever. Like, I know people in this town that I'll never do business again with because I own restaurants. And I know people in this town that I would absolutely hand everything in the world to, and that I would never try to backstab, that I would give up everything I have to make sure that I could pay a bill to, because they're the right people, and I trust them to do what they're doing. They've shown who they truly are. And I learned those things in the NFL. I learned those things in college. I learned those things in the military. And I've learned those things from my wife. And she's been in the beginning for 20 years, and I trust her with everything. So it's one of those things, like, if you have those things in your life, lean into them, enjoy them. But to actually describe what they are, I think it's a soul search. I think it's something that you see, that you feel, that you know, when it comes to trusting somebody. But it's super easy to find the people you can't trust. Those are the ones that show up fast, right? Those are ones, trust very, very slow, untrust very, very fast. So, people will tell you who they are. Usually right off the bat, you just got to listen.
You mentioned your wife. Mm-hmm. You've got the kids.
Yeah.
I'm curious. Kids were born while you were an NFL player, by and large. Mm-hmm. How do they view their dad? And I know that might be a tough question to answer, but do they view you as cool?
I think they think I'm cool. But the great thing is, I tell most people, the great thing is my kids were not old enough in the NFL to recognize we were really in the NFL. There's pictures of my daughters when I was wrapping up my career in Miami when I retired, and they were about getting ready to be 4 and 2 years old, and they're dressed up in their Dolphins cheerleading outfits. And after that, we had retired and moved on, and we came back to this town, and we decided to raise our kids right here for a reason, to be closer to family, be closer to this community. I wanted to raise my kids in this community because I believed in this community. I love this community, and I knew what the standards and the expectations of this community were, and how they would be raised in this community. I did not want them raised up in that life. There's a lot of things about the NFL that are great. There's excellent things. There's protections for kids. There's great health insurance. There's great people in that community in the NFL. But there's also a lot of traps in that community. I watched a lot of kids that were raised in that community that were expected a certain thing, that the certain lifestyle was expected. I wanted my kids to see me. The NFL was work every single day. I wanted my kids to see me work in a different way and strive in a different way. They are now finally getting that age at 14 and 12 that they're starting to realize what their dad did, and their friends know who I am, and their parents know who I am, and their teachers know who I am, and they're starting to lean into them a little bit on that stuff. But I tell them the great thing about that is everything I made in the NFL, I've lost in restaurants. So we're really back to poor again. So they don't, other than the Super Bowl ring, there's not much that our life is NFL versus what it was prior NFL. So they've been raised in a house that I have a couple helmets around. My wife built a picture of me from Green Bay and from Miami that kind of sit in one room, but I don't have any trophies up. My ring's not out. They're not raised in watching a ton of NFL games or me spewing old stories about how great I was. I'm going to save those for when they're a little older, and then I'll be like, hey, I was really, really great, when all the footage is lost and they can't prove me wrong. The problem is now they can look it up and they'd be like, Dad, like Jared Allen kicked your ass. There was a game you gave up 2 sacks, like you were terrible, so it's like now they can prove that I wasn't great, right? I got to wait a little while. Once that's lost and enough, then we can really lean into my career.
Have you ever caught them with friends over bragging on you a little bit? Like, hey, come check out my dad's Super Bowl.
They haven't used me for enough leverage yet. I think they've used it with a couple of their teachers who are like, oh, this town's still a small community, right? There's people that are teachers in this community that I played with. There's people that are PE teachers that are former trainers. There's all that stuff still happens in this community. So there's people that are like, oh, I knew your dad in college, and all this stuff. So I think they've tried to use it to a little bit of their leverage, but I don't think they've really leaned into it yet or figured it out. But it's just a matter, like I said, I've got one daughter who's 12 and one who's 14 going on 20. So she's getting in that manipulative phase. Maybe she'll start to kind of figure it out. She's like, hey, this can make my life a little better. But I told them to be careful. Like, not everybody's a Green Bay, Arizona, Miami fan. Like, you might just walk yourself down a road that, like, oh, I'm a huge Steelers fan. I remember what happened in 45, and there's an F. Like, congratulations. So I don't know if that's going to always go well for them.
You've had a ton of teammates during your time at Boise State. In the NFL for those 3 programs, what is the one teammate you remember the most from your college days and the one teammate you remember the most from your professional days?
There's no one guy that I remember the most from college. I remember offensive linemen, and I remember rooms. I remember guys like the Kishbaws and the Cavenders and the Twins. And I remember dudes like Scott Huff and Rob Vine that took me under their wing. I remember Matt Navis. I see him all the time. I remember the rooms and the offensive lines and seeing guys like Turner. And I remember these guys, and I still see them in this community. They're the guys that I still appreciate, and I love kicking back and telling old times with, and seeing their successes in their life and their growths and their failures and their continual changes and what happens to them. Because you grew up, you started out honestly as boys and became men. And some of these guys were those mentors to me that were able to take me under their wing, like Matt Hill, and taught me what it meant to be an offensive lineman. In the league, I've still got my guys from 3 Fat Guys. I run that. We run a small wine company, but it's been something that we haven't necessarily ever done to make money. We've done as to keep us very, very close as friends and have a reason to connect. We're going to do a wine tasting here in October in Boise, and we're going up to Alaska to do one later. Now, it's just a reason for us to get together, and that's Jason Spitz and Tony Mull, 2 guys I love to death. But I still see, Mason Crosby invites me out to events. I still see those guys at different times. But those 2 from the NFL are my 2 closest friends and the 2 guys I've stayed most in touch with. But it's funny now, like when you first get out of the league, you don't see anybody ever, right? Unless you force yourself to. And now as we get older, we're starting to get nostalgic. And we're starting to see each other at reunions or gatherings, or like, oh, hey man, saw you on Facebook. Like all of a sudden we're like people on Facebook, like we're 50 on Facebook finding people. So it's one of those things where you're starting to reconnect with some of those guys and start telling stories again and grow. But yeah, when it comes to offensive linemen, I don't think there's ever one person. Like I have distinct memories that are terrible of certain people. I'm like, forget that guy. But the guys that I really, really remember are most of my offensive lines and the things that we accomplished. But the great thing about that position is you really become family.
Brilliant. Well, Daryn, tremendous way to start. Neat conversations. We appreciate you.
This is the start.
Yeah, this is the first show ever. We don't even know what we're doing yet.
Can only go up from here.
You'll come back. We will do a Daryn Plus episode where we get even more expensive and rare bourbons to pair alongside the Horseshoe Collective Bourbon. But before you go, your camera's right there. I want you to look at the camera. Message to Bronco Nation. Whatever you want it to be, words of encouragement, thoughts on how they should act at a game, a stat of yours you'd like them to remember, whatever it is. Any message to Bronco Nation.
I already told you the 53 games. I think it's the only stat I've got. Don't try to look up my sacks. Bronco Nation, remember they're kids. They're growing. Be excited for them to be challenged, excited for them to run into the wall, to find their backs against the wall, because it'll only strive for greatness that's going to happen later in the future. These will be great guys. They're coached extremely excellent. They've got good men down there, and we're extremely fortunate to have them. So support them the best you can. I don't care if it's $1 or it's $1 million. Find a way to support them. Find a way to help us do it better, and forever go Broncos.
Brilliant.